Hey folks, welcome back to Mark Kelly Farm. It is a glorious day here in Nebraska. We are loving this. So we need to get back doing some stuff on the farm, so stick around and we'll do a few things. We'll look around, we'll see how things are going. You can see the lawn is really greening up since we put that fertilizer on. We're on a fertilizer program with our local seed store. This is where we took out a tree year before last. It's growing in slowly, but it's getting there. But the lawn is looking real good. We've been having to mow. Kelly's been on her lawnmower out here loving it. The bees are out here in their favorite watering hole, getting some water. We keep this pan out here just for the bees. We keep stuff in it so they have stuff to land on when they're drinking. Got our fresh new flag up. The other one was getting a little worn out. You can see the hills out there are turning green. We had a nice little rain a few days ago. That's really going to help out. We really needed that. You can see off in the distance they have that pivot running out there, irrigating that field. That's the end gun on it. What you got, Ruby? You find you a big stick? Yeah? Don't hit it on something to break your teeth out. Our friends Dave and Stephanie left for home this morning at 2:30 a.m. so they're on their way back to Tennessee. We had a really great time with them. It was a real good visit. Really enjoyed it. But we have to get back to things here on the old homestead, of course. So let's go look in the greenhouse real quick. Well, here's all our stuff in the greenhouse. We had some losses. If you watched our live feed, I fell asleep in my chair one night and came out a little too late, and we lost some stuff, but we still got plenty to plant in the garden. And we also took a trip to the garden center and supplemented some stuff that we had lost. We've up-potted our tomatoes this morning. We'll have plenty of those. We bought some peppers. But we got lucky. Some of the seeds that hadn't germinated yet went ahead and germinated. So a lot of the stuff we'd lost is actually coming back just fine. So it won't be long. We'll be getting this stuff out in the garden. Now the dangers of having an uninsulated greenhouse is when it's cold outside, it's still going to be cold inside. The only benefit you get for having a greenhouse is the sun during the day. On cold days, keeps it warmer inside here. But on a cold night, you got to turn on the heater, you got to close all the windows and all that. And then on a day where the sun's out like today, you have to open the windows up, and then we have a fan that blows cool air into the greenhouse. You can see it. We put it in the window back there. So that window back there is open, and we open the window on the door. Otherwise it'll get to like 120, 130 degrees in there, and that's really hard on plants. We've got all of our spinach is up in the lick tub. It survived the frost just fine because it's kind of a cold weather crop. We did lose some bok choy, some baby bok choy that we had planted in here. But just like inside the greenhouse, some of the stuff that hadn't germinated is now coming up. We have some kale coming up here. We have, I think, only one rose that's coming out of winter in the pots. All the rest of these will dump out. But we have a place for that rose over in the corner where we have a dead one in the yard. So we'll be transplanting that here pretty soon. The grapes haven't budded out yet, but it won't be long. They're come out a little bit later in the season. But all of our fruit trees are coming out over here. They think it's time to wake up, even though the last couple days we've had freezing weather again. So any blooms that we've had out here, we're not going to get any fruit. Of course, being the first couple years, you're not going to get much fruit anyway, and you should probably pick it all off of the trees because you want all the energy going to the growth of your young tree. This one here is coming out real good. This is a cherry, I believe. Yep, meteor cherry. But everything's coming out real nice. We've got our new trees in down here. And to our surprise, this pear that we thought was toast, that I've been having a hard time finding a variety to match, it's actually budding out. So I think because the damage from the rabbit was kind of hit and miss and not solid all the way around the trunk, that some of the cambium layer survived and this thing is sprouting. But I'd still like to replace it because that kind of thing there just kind of invites disease. But we'll see how it goes. I've yet to find this variety. It's called a luscious pear. So this hasn't been replaced yet. If I can't find it and we have issues with this tree, which I'm sure we'll put something else here. But you can see our new peach here. It's got actually peaches on it. They're probably not going to survive, and if they do, we'll pick off all but maybe a couple of them, just really close to the main stem, because we don't want these little tiny branches weighted down. And then this is our new pear. It hasn't come out of bud stage yet, still waiting. And then this is our new Fuji apple. Looks really good, nice specimen of a tree. We'll probably eventually nip this off. We'll probably wait till next year because we don't want this big long crazy thing here. Be a nice compact tree. But our Honeycrisp apples over here started to leaf out and started to get some blooms on it, but then we got some frost, kind of burn it a little bit. But it'll throw some new leaves again even if we don't get fruit this year. And this is our other cherry tree here, coming out of hibernation. It hasn't bloomed yet, but it's waking up. Spring in the air, we've been having to mow the lawn again, so you can see we have our new mulch pile started for next year. Kelly's already cleaned out the chicken coop once. We've got that mixed in there. We still got the remnants of our old mulch pile that we're starting to mulch our onions, so we'll show you that here in a little bit. And Kelly informed me over the weekend that we have a few asparagus poking up over here. Let's see if we can find one. There's one right there. There's a couple right there. So we'll start being able to harvest asparagus here pretty soon. If you've been watching the channel, you know we're going to extend this row all the way down to the end of the garden, so we have more asparagus to pick. Let's check our big apple trees out. Starting to wake up. Hopefully the frost hasn't hurt these trees because there's no blooms out yet, because we'd really love to get some apples this year. You can see over here the rabbits even got over here to this big tree and chewed the bark off down here, but this tree is so well established that I'm sure it's not going to hurt it. But probably be a good idea to go get some pruning seal and spray over that to keep some disease out. While we're over here, let's go check out the bees. Girls are just waking up. It's probably high 40s, so they're not flying real heavily yet, but we've had some really good days for the bees, and they've been out getting nectar. There's plenty of nectar to get. We have a lot of trees in bloom here and lots of pollen for them to gather right now. So they've been pretty active over here. Had both hives come out of winter real nice, so we're real pleased with these two colonies here. With this good weather, we've been getting quite a bit done here on the homestead before our company showed up, and we even got some stuff done after they showed up. And the big surprise for the weekend, when our friends were here, my friend Dave yesterday morning said, "Hey, let's put the Windmill Tower up." And I said, "Are you out of your mind? We've been crazy. We need to relax for a while." And he says, no, let's do it. So we got her up. So that was another surprise for Kelly's birthday. We've been wanting to get this thing up. It was ready to start working on. We had it laid out here, ready to start working on it. So we got the work done we needed to get done on the tower. And then we drilled the holes out here with a post hole digger and went and got the concrete, and we got that baby in the ground. We stood it up with the tractor. We shortened it up just a little bit, but it's probably still a good 25 feet to the top of that thing. And if you remember, we have the windmill in the barn here ready to go up there, but we're going to let everything settle nice. Let that dirt settle in real nicely, let the concrete set. It'll probably be fall or late fall before I even think about putting the gearbox and the rotor and everything up on top. But we're happy to get this part of the project done. That's a big part of the battle. We'll have to get a boom truck out here to put the head up there. But that'll be a fun project when we get to do that. The chickens have stepped up their lane. We're almost getting 20 eggs a day, 18 to 20 eggs, because they've come out of their winter slowdown and kicked it up a notch. You can see Cat here, right here in the front, the big silver rooster. He's a lavender Orpington. He's been getting a little more protective of the girls there. He squared off with me a couple times because I'm not in there much, so he's not used to me. Kelly's in there just about twice a day. So he squared off on Kelly the other day, but Kelly just kind of booted him out of the way, and he calms down a little bit. But he's getting more and more protective, which is good. He should be protecting his flock, and that's what he's doing. But he's a real gentleman with the girls, and they seem to like him. If you remember, we got that order of Colorado blue spruce trees in from the local NRC, and we got those planted. We've been watering those with our IBC tote that we got set up for watering. We just carried around with the front loader on the tractor. Hello, Cat. But we've been watering that probably about once a week. We've been out watering the trees out on the periphery out here, and then we've also been watering Kelly's elderberries that we planted here along the garden. Now, speaking of the garden, let's go over here and take a look. I hope you can see here, we almost got 100% sprouting of our onions here on this last row that we planted. We've got a real good push-up of these onions. I've got the rake this morning, and I pulled the last year's mulch up against the onions here on this left side. But we need to get a few more wheelbarrows of mulch in here, probably 6 or 7. And we'll put some mulch down this other side and probably some more on this side. And then we got to carefully put some mulch in the middle and spread that stuff out. I'm going to do a little experiment this year. I have some leftover bulbs from this project here, and I'm going to get a spot over here on one of these other rows, and I'm going to try planting the onions into the mulch. Take the mulch away from the dirt, put the bulb right on top of the soil, and then cover it back with mulch and see how the bulbs sprout up through the mulch. Because if that's a doable thing and it works, it'll be much easier than this here where we have to kind of mulch around them after they sprout. So we'll do a little experiment and give that a try. If it works out, that'll be a lot easier out here next year. Now you can see we still don't have a lot of weeds. We of course don't have any weeds where we mulched, but we're trying to let as many weeds as we can sprout out here in the walk path. We have a little bit, but not too much. We're trying to do a big withdrawal from our seed bank, if you remember. And then we'll come in here with a rototiller and we'll till the walk paths and turn all those in. That'll help the soil because it's kind of a green manure type thing when you till it in. You want to make sure you do it long before the seeds pop out on those weeds because you don't want them to come back. You just want them to sprout so they'll never sprout again. So we've got the peas planted over here. If you remember from a previous video, I came in this morning. They've sprouted fairly well. I did a very light thinning this morning. They'll have to be thinned a little bit more, but I just wanted to take the heavy stuff out. So they're about 1.5 inches, 2 inches apart right now. You can see over here, this is one that got pulled out. But once they get a little bit bigger, instead of pulling them out, I don't want to disturb the roots of the other ones. I'll just come in with some really fine little snips that I have that I use for pruning tomatoes, and I'll just clip off the ones I don't want at the ground and let the rest of them grow. We have our other variety of peas over here on this other trellis. You can see them sprouted over here. So the peas and the onions are the only thing actually out in the garden now, because they will take a little frost. But pretty soon we'll have these other rows full of stuff. It's getting exciting. So what I'm going to do now is, I had an old string of our flags, pennant flags, that Kelly's mom had sent us, that they had had for years. All the flags actually came off the rope. So now that we have green stuff out here in the garden, it's going to get real attractive for some of our predators out here, like our deer. We saw some deer up on the hill last night. So I have a section to put in over there. We're going to go get those out and put them up. Got that done. It was an easy fix. Got it replaced, so now those pesky deer will stay out of our garden. If you weren't aware, if you're new to the channel, we've used this deer fence for 2 years now and had 100% success. We haven't had any deer in the garden. No issues whatsoever. We do have a video on it, but I'll run you through it real quick. We just got the 4-foot cattle panels. They're the combo panels, which means the spaces on the bottom are smaller to keep the small pests out. Although I have seen a rabbit dive through the upper holes once Brandy was chasing her. But haven't had any rabbit problems in here either though. But we just put these on T-posts, and then I took these little poles, these are electric fence for cattle fence. They're the metal posts for that. I just bent them a little bit and I welded them on a piece of square tubing that would fit over the T-post. And then we use the electrical connectors here. These are the insulators where the electric wire runs through, and those are adjustable. They move up and down the pole. But we've got them set at about 6.5 feet here. And then we were having issues with the flags coming out of those connectors. So we've gone through and put zip ties on them all. So the zip ties hold those in, and we haven't had any problems since, because we were having to rehang flags quite a bit that first year. So that's why we zip tied them. But if this was just a straight 4-foot fence like this, the deer will basically just jump right over that, no problem. They wouldn't even bat an eye. But with this upper string of flags, and you can see they jut out from the fence, it messes with their depth perception, and they don't think they can clear this, and it keeps them out. And it's much cheaper than going with like a 8-foot tall fence all the way around. It would cost you double what we did to put this in. We got our cattle panels fairly cheap. Keeping an eye on Facebook Marketplace, we only had to buy like 2 or 3 panels. So it wasn't too bad, and the T-posts were left here by the previous owner here in this garden space. We just pulled them all up and kind of rearranged things. But looking so forward to getting out here and planting some stuff in the garden. I see something over here I want to show you. This is our rhubarb coming back up. It comes back every year. It's a perennial. And if you don't like rhubarb, I suggest that you try it. It's really good. It's an acquired taste. Most people mix it with strawberries. But this is more of a greener style rhubarb, where the The stalks aren't as red. You can see in there. Stalks aren't quite as red as other rhubarb. They're still a little red to them. But this needs to grow a little bit more before we can start harvesting stalks off of there. And all you use is the stalks. You don't use the leaves. But we've planted some rhubarb in other areas because this isn't very convenient here. We like to keep this mowed down. And it's a little too close to the garden fence. We can get the mower through here though, I think. We may leave this here because when we extend the asparagus bed, we'll have to keep this row clean anyway. So this one may survive and may stay there. If you're interested in those pennant flags or any other kind of flag stuff, this is where we purchased them. We've got them through Amazon, but you can go directly to their website, I'm sure. And you don't have to get the multicolored ones. You can get solid colors, whatever you want. Here's the view from above the garden up on the hill. Pretty proud of that. Things are shaping up pretty good here on the homestead over the past 2.5 years that we've been here. We've got a lot of stuff done, and we've gone from the have-to-dos into the wanna-dos, and that's a good place to be. I really enjoy that. I don't like deadlines or things that have to get done. I like doing things that we want to get done, and we can get going on the special projects that we want to do. And it's not so taxing that way. It's much more relaxing. The quince tree here above my favorite swing out here is alive with bees. You can hear it buzzing. They're loving these blooms. So we're going to sit down in the shade here for a minute. If you wonder what a quince is, this is one that was on the ground. This was from last year that we missed. We didn't think we had any up there, but apparently there was at least one. So I might open this up and get the seeds out of it and try to propagate some of these. I've never had these before, but I heard people make jam out of them and stuff. We haven't had a good year to where this tree was loaded with them, but maybe this year. So doing a quick Google search on a quince, they're yellow, kind of the shape of a cross between a pear and an apple, and usually about 4 ounces at full maturity. And they've been around since ancient times, apparently. They predate the apple. And many believe that the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden was actually one of these. And then many also believe that the golden apple that was given to Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was actually a quince. But apparently they're very astringent when they're ripe. You don't want to eat them raw. But once cooked, they become really sweet and just a beautiful flavor, I guess. And often used in jams and jellies. It's said they're very good with pork. And smelling this, I can just imagine that would be super good with pork or maybe turkey or something like that. I hope we get some of these someday so we can do something with them. That'll be fantastic. Now breaking this open, there was no seeds. There was kind of a central pit, but it was soft, and I kind of broke it open. So this one's not going to get planted. But the smell on these things is just amazing. It smells like a really fine, like super good port wine. That would, oh my gosh. I can't get over that. I'm going to save this for Kelly so when she gets home she can take a whiff of this stuff. I could smell that all day long. All right, folks. Getting to be nighttime. Kelly got home. We had dinner. And I'm going out to put the greenhouse to bed. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us today. Stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here on Mark Kelly Farm. It don't cost nothing.